The episode Lighthouse introduces us to a brand new location on the show, one we witnessed only in this episode, the Lighthouse. When was it built and what was it all about? Let's rewind the clock a couple of thousand years. Based on the exterior structure, this was built ages ago and was very likely inspired by the lighthouse at Alexandria. It seems like the most obvious choice, picking one of the 7 wonders of the world, the most famous lighthouse in history. But it seems so if we look at how it was built. I think these people who built the lighthouse on the island were amongst the first people that came to the island after the death of Jacob's brother. This is after the glory days of ancient Egypt, but Egyptians nonetheless, coming here from Roman Egypt. These people could have traveled by boat from Alexandria, hence why they knew about that lighthouse's design. The lighthouse has an ancient and unusual design. Most lighthouses are round or octagonal these days. This one is not, hence why I don't think it was built in modern times. Jacob's lighthouse also resembles the Tower of Hercules, built by Romans in the 1st century. The design was based on the original plans of the Lighthouse of Alexandria. In my episode on the Cerberus Chamber, I've toyed with the idea that the scribes from Thebes who wrote the Papyrus of Ani came to the island prior to the events of Across the Sea. So I decided to see if it was true. Did the pillars contain a passage from the Book of the Dead? Luckily, after a couple of days of looking through what felt like an endless amount of papyrus scrolls, I found it. In the 18th sheet, in the Papyrus of Ani, there it is. It's a match. Ani was a real man from Thebes who died in 1250 BC. He made sure that some scribes would customize a Book of the Dead for him, hence why portions from the Papyrus of Ani wound up on the island. Jacob's Egyptians could have encountered the remains of this group and found the text from the Papyrus of Ani. The Papyrus of Ani was written 1,200 years before the events of Across the Sea, and it was also sealed in a tomb for thousands of years. Jacob's group could have come to the island a couple of years after he started his protector job with more knowledge and information, and they had also seen the Metternich Stela, which is replicated onto the Cerberus Chamber. The Metternich Stela was also stored in Alexandria, a steel plate dating from 380 to 342 BC. This find was discovered by someone from the Lost Forum, the fuselage, and you can see that this portion is identical to this one from the mural in the chamber. Just look, it incorporates part of this story, and then these stairs only flipped, and this area matches this one over here. This is from the backside of the stela, and some of these people might have rebuilt the Cerberus Chamber and the pool room and all of that, but we'll come back to that in a later video. What's interesting is that the lighthouse wasn't built near a coastal town. If the Egyptians and Jacob were interested in guiding ships to the island, then surely they would have built it at this coast. This area had a lot of activity in the glory days. The statue of Tavret was built here, and right behind it would be the stone arch above the well. The man in black's bench is also somewhere around here, and since it's in an open grassy spot, I believe that this was one area with a lot of houses, all of which have been dilapidated and destroyed over the centuries. No, they built the lighthouse over here at the southern tip, which at this point in time is not south but east. I've talked about this in my season 4 videos that the compass bearing has changed a little bit throughout history. This is east now. I'll come back to that. Just like some smart man figured out that metal behaved strangely during Across the Sea, Jacob might have used this intel for himself. He might have shown some other smart Egyptians this cliff. In my video about Jacob's travels, I even suggested the theory that Jacob built a wheel on his own, which he used to travel to and from the island, calculating bearings from the lighthouse. More on that in the video in the description. These Egyptians will use the energy underneath the island and build a lighthouse, using their knowledge from Alexandria. At the tower, they will inscribe this phrase. It's from Ani's Book of the Dead, chapter 148. Which describes the 4 steering oars of the universe. You can see the similarities here. The only thing is that the images are facing the other way on Lost, but the phrasing is the same. You see that the symbols appear both places in this exact order. This is one out of the 4 addresses to these steering oars, specifically the eastern one. This is what the hieroglyphs read. Hail Shining One, who is in the midst of the house of divine images, beautiful ore of the east. This to me is a significant clue that Jacob and the Egyptians realized that Man in Black was right, that by connecting a system to the light beneath the island can make you see into the other people's lives and potentially travel to these places. The lighthouse is the house of divine images, or mansion of divine images. You can read it both ways. Here's the Egyptian symbol for a mansion, which resembles the lighthouse. The divine images are the reflections in the mirrors, using a system like a very long oar that is connected to the mirror in the tower and goes right into the light underneath the ground. There was something religious and grand about this mechanism, which is reflected in their saying, Hail Shining One, who is in the midst of the house of divine images, beautiful ore of the east. And what about the ore? Well, that's what is suggested with travel. The latter translation can also read, the good steering ore of the eastern sky. Maybe the Egyptians want to make 4 of these lighthouses. One here, one would likely be at this coast near the statue of Tavret, then another one here, near the ancient ruins, and the 4th one could be somewhere here, maybe at this tip, that is, if there's any electromagnetic fields over here, we don't know. I don't think they quite figured out the mechanism yet. There might have been many years of trial and error. Maybe the equipment wasn't as precise, that you could see only a few places in the world, not 360. They likely used bronze mirrors and a different wheel system in the tower, since this is much more newer than the ancient Egyptians. I think Jacob could have updated the mirrors after a while, maybe changed from bronze to silver. I think that by meddling with the light, using the energy to create divine images, Jacob would make sure that the lighthouse gave the illusion that it was invisible to those he didn't consider worthy of entering, or that was not giving his blessing or touch. Or else, Man in Black would surely lead Sword to the lighthouse. I don't think Man in Black ever saw the lighthouse, just like he never found the heart of the island, unless he was being in company of the Protector. He searched the entire island inch by inch. If he went into the bamboo field, he would just roam around in an empty bamboo field. It's the same idea here, that if Man in Black came here, he would only see ocean, just like how muggles in the Wizarding World can't see Hogwarts. So this tower operated for many years, and let's move ahead to the Renaissance. I really like the idea of history repeating itself, and that there was a clever fella who figured out a way of using the energy with much more precise calculations. Maybe Wallace was the man who came to the island with a bunch of other Europeans that convinced Jacob to replace the stuff in the tower with a modern solution, and maybe he figured out the magic of the 6 numbers, that there was something more about these bearings. If we examine this tower more closely, I can imagine that the only thing from ancient times would be the bowl in the middle and this stone circle around it. Everything else has been updated with newer technology. The bronze mirrors from the start were replaced by glass mirrors, since glass mirrors started to get produced in the last millennia. These gears could also replace whatever older system the Egyptians made, and also Wallace, Jacob or someone else added this top portion to the stone circle. You can see that there is something made of copper or brass or other metal. This one replaced whatever number system they used with a more standardized number system, because Roman numerals are not used anymore. The Hindu-Arabic numeral system had replaced them, this number system we use today. Additionally, there is a telescope here, but this could have been placed here at a later time. The telescope was invented in the 1600s. Everyone who contributed to this building process died out, and Jacob continued using the lighthouse, the house of divine images, to observe his candidates. Let's go back to the episode. On Lostpedia they treat the events in this episode as day 6. I disagree. I think most of it happened on day 7, as I've stated in my analysis on what Kate does. The only thing that happens on day 6 is Claire freeing Jin from the bear trap. This happens over here. He faints and she starts to carry him to her lair. Then there is a nighttime sequence off screen where she travels across the island. Now it's day 7 and Jack is over here. He's staring at the pond. This episode is riddled with reflections and mirrors both in the flash sideways as well as the island, culminating in the final scene at the lighthouse where Jack smashes the mirrors. In a way, he smashes the mirroring of season 1, since next episode does not mirror the centricity of season 1. He and Dogen go back to the courtyard. Jack informs Saeed that Dogen tried to poison him.
They wanted me to kill you.
Meanwhile, Hurley goes inside the temple where he is met by a vision of Jacob, who tells him that someone is coming to the island. Hurley gets a pen, writes some instructions, then goes over here. This is the corridor with hieroglyphs. One of them is a secret tunnel that goes outside the temple. This symbol is a Shen ring. It's represented as a double strand of rope, the ends of which are folded in such a way that a closed ring is formed with a knot on the underside. The Shen ring appears as a hieroglyph, as a protective sign, and as an amulet. It represents infinity and eternity.
I'm just, looking, because I'm a big fan of temples and history.
Hurley goes to the courtyard and convinces Jack to accompany him on a mission to an unspecified location. They both leave through here and enter the secret tunnel. This is the same secret tunnel Ilana will guide our characters through in the next episode. They're gonna walk over here, passing the pathway. Somewhere along this path is Aldo's body, but Justin, he is already awake and is following Claire's trail. Jack and Hurley will pass the barracks and will be on this side of the mountain chain. Sawyer and Man in Black Locke are also trekking to the southern part of the island on this day, but they are on this side. Jin wakes up in a tent. This is Claire's lair. It's filmed in Manoa Valley, and this is a location we've seen before. This is where the medical station is, and I believe this is the same place on the island. It makes sense for the treks on the island, and Claire might have relocated here to grab stuff from the station, such as this crib and the books. Claire finds Justin and manages to tie him up. She brings him to the lair. Claire stitches the wound Jin received from the trap, and then she kills Justin with an axe. Just like all of the treks on the island, they go by in a record-breaking speed. Hurley and Jack pass a lot of the jungle and valleys and then end up here at the Dark Territory River. The last time we were here was in the season 2 finale, filmed in the same place at Kapina Falls. They encounter Kate, who tells them she is going to try to find Claire. I'm not sure which way she goes right now. Maybe she's just trying to get back to the temple, or else she would go to the beach camp, and Ilana's team are there, so I'm not sure she went to the beach camp after what Jack told her.
I'm going back to beach camp. She might still be there, Jack.
Kate, she's not up at the beach. The people at the temple said that something happened to her.
On their way, they pass by the caves. Our characters haven't been here since season 2. They find the corpses of Man in Black and Mother, as well as the empty coffin of Christian Shepherd. At the same time, Man in Black and Sawyer have arrived at the cliffside cave. We've already explored this part. Many have wondered how Sawyer got out of this cave. Did Man in Black Locke turn into smoke and then Sawyer would fly out? No, I don't think so. There is a possibility that there is another way. Back here it looks like some sort of ladder. Maybe there is a tunnel made out of volcanic rock that goes into the jungle again. Sawyer must be pretty mad at Man in Black Locke for taking him down this dangerous cliff when there was a safer way to this place all along. Then they will both trek to Claire's lair in an off-screen scene. Jin tells Claire that he was lying about Kate. They are then interrupted by the Man in Black entering the tent, who Claire introduces as her friend. Hurley and Jack eventually reach the lighthouse. This is filmed at Makapu Lighthouse Trail. We've seen this location before on 2 other occasions, but they've never been the same location on the island. Jack and Hurley get to the top. Jack sees his name written down next to number 23. Jack destroys all the mirrors and exits. Jacob once again approaches Hurley and tells him that he wanted Hurley and Jack as far away from the temple as possible. In terms of treks and locations, this works well with the lighthouse being so far away from the temple, and that Jack and Hurley would pass by the Dark Territory River as well as the caves on their way there. We've explored the backstory of the lighthouse here. Next week we'll dive a little bit deeper into the temple. Please like, share and subscribe, it really helps a small channel like this one, and we'll see you in a week.